Hi, Professor and classmates. We are group number 4, composed by María Inocencia Herrera, María Galán, Marlenis Encarnación, and me, Luisa Maciel Salcier. The research that we will be presenting today is EOT materials for very young learners. Teacher's perspective on selection, implementation, and evaluation. It was carried out by Maria Stek from the University of Silesia in Zizan, Poland in 2015. The justification of this research was the educational policy in Europe at the time. Due to globalization and the progress in applied linguistics and multilingualism, and also the impact of English as the international language, led to lowering the ages in teaching modern languages in all European countries, including Poland. 10 years prior to this investigation, the tendency was to extend early language education for children who were under 6 years old. It was stimulated by politicians and parents who stated and believed that an early start in foreign language learning was going to change the future of their children. The situation was also reflected in Polish language educational system. The Polish Ministry of Education established a policy where a foreign language had to be introduced compulsorily in kindergartens since September 2015 for the 5-year-olds, the next year for the 4-year-olds, and then on September 2017 for the 3-year-olds. The idea was to expose children to a foreign language for two main reasons. The first one was to stimulate the children linguistically and culturally. The second one was to develop a positive attitude and motivation for language education. Learners were supposed to encounter a new language in a form of plays, games, comprehend simple instructions and stories, repeat rhymes, and sing songs. The teachers were supposed to combine pre-primary education with foreign language education. This introduction was costly business for the nation, so the situation brought changes for the very young learners and the teachers in kindergarten schools, as well as parents. This research then focuses on EOT materials for children. The aim was to identify the most important factors linked with selection, implementation, and evaluation of these materials that were being used in kindergarten at that time. The idea was to investigate the role of materials from teachers' perspective. The data was collected in Silesia region, hoping that the results could enrich the process of English education in the pre-primary stage and the process of material development for children in pre-primary education.
Hello everybody, this is Maria Galan and I'm going to talk about the research objective and questions. So, this research major objective was to investigate the role of English language teaching materials in the process of teaching English to very young learners. The main idea of this research was to examine challenges that face teachers in the process of selection, implementation, and evaluation materials in the process of teaching in the kindergarten. On another hand, here we have the research questions, which were designed by the authors for this project and divided into 3 groups. The first group was focuses on the selection of English language teaching materials for very young learners and has 3 questions. The second group refers to the process of implementation and has 4 questions to develop. And finally, the third group was the process of evaluating English teaching materials and has 3 questions.
Hello, dear peers and professor, I'm Marlenis Encarnación, and I'm going to continue talking about research procedures and tours. The research project was conducted in a format of questionnaire study. 30 questionnaires were distributed among English teachers in kindergarten in the Silesia region in the spring 2015. Those questionnaires were divided into parts. The first part was concerned about the background of the teacher, for example, the gender, experience, qualification for teaching English to children, and the second part was focused on ERT material for very young learning. This part includes 16 questions, but open and closed of the resort. In this investigation, the teachers were between 20 to 15 years old. They were qualified with a degree, BA in English. Most of them used carpet toys, smart table, TV, puppets to give their class. To choose their material, they analyze very young learners' abilities. The major tendency is to use course book, and most of the time they prepare their own games, word records, and flashcards. The biggest problem in this age was the discipline and children's attention, and also their age and their ability. Thank you very much for your attention.
Now we will talk about the discussions of the findings. STEC's results explain how the ELT materials were initially chosen for very young learners in these Polish kindergartens. Teachers would usually assess their resources and look for books, materials on the internet. They would even consider talking to book publishers to get those and adapt them to their students' reality and their students' needs. They recognized that this process took a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of experience, but it was necessary after they thoroughly examined these students' needs. Things to make sure that these materials would be adequate for their students. They usually use toys, puppets, do-it-yourself materials. They used course books, and they used also multimedia projects so they can address all of their needs. They also did specific materials for specific English lessons, but these materials were developed by the teachers themselves. Games, work logs, flashcards, and pictures were mostly used. Difficulties were mainly because of the group's disciplinary issues, as well as their children's short attention span. Another set of difficulties that was found within this research revolved around finding the right resources for very young learners and adjusting those to their skills and abilities. The third finding was how exactly did these teachers review these ELT materials. The results found that it was difficult for them since it required a lot of prior experience and preparation, as well as understanding of the kids' abilities and reflection on previous used resources. These teachers in particularly, they evaluate the organization, the design, and the visuals in these ELT materials in terms of their support for teaching very young learners, especially their visual perception and their cognitive development. We can conclude that the purpose of the study was to describe teachers' issues while using ELT materials in the context of Poland's newly implemented policy of teaching foreign languages at the pre-primary level, despite the fact that the current study is based on a small sample of participants who worked as English teachers with varying qualifications and expertise in teaching English to very young learners. These findings indicate that they require additional support and training with ELT materials. There are so many options and ready-made materials on the market, and this study found that there is a need for training in the areas of selection, implementation, and evaluation of ELT materials. Thank you for your attention.